Welcome to our Camino, our way. I'm Craig Davey. In April and May this year, 2026, we walked the Camino de Santiago from St. John Peter Port all the way through to Camino de Santiago, Finisterre and Muxía. We're 64. We did a lot of research first. Some of it we listened to, some we didn't, to our chagrin. There we go. But what I want to talk about today is one of the big things that comes up all the time. That's packing, weight, things like that. What do you take? What do you not take? And there's so many people that have different ideas, but there's some ideal things that you should listen to. So today I want to answer in the best way that we can, with our way, through me anyway, the big question. What should I pack? And, as a side note, should I have my backpack or a bag transported from place to place to place? And I'll talk about a little bit about that later. A little bit, yeah. But my idea for the Camino, for me, and I'm reading this because I wrote this down, otherwise I'll forget, is that I wanted to carry everything on my back, on my backpack. Now, the solid rule of thumb is it should be around 10% of the body weight. This is what so many of the forums show through Facebook or social media or YouTube or just different forums that you find on the Camino. Now, this is the single most practical advice that I read over and over and over. Did I listen? Sort of. Of course. I packed about 12 kilograms. Now I weigh, well actually when I started the Camino I weighed about 78 kilos. I sort of fluctuate between 78 and 82 kilos. So I figured 8 kilograms, 10%, 12 kilograms, I can handle it. I'm pretty strong for me. And I could have done it. But I didn't, and I'll explain more later and why. As I packed, I realised something near the end of my packing of, like, I've got what I think is going to be perfect. My 10, 12 kilos of stuff. I needed to add water. You need water every day. Now, some people say they only carry 500 mils. You can fill it up anywhere. You can't. You can always find somewhere, but I don't want to be without water. Do you understand? You're never going to go thirsty. You're not going to die of thirst on the Camino anywhere. You're not going to die of hunger on the Camino ever. There's plenty of resources, but I wanted to have fresh water every day ready to go, so we bought a Camelback. Now, we stick it in our pack, but these weigh 2 kilograms. It was a 2 litre one. Actually, no, it was a 1.5 litre one, I'm sorry, and I carried a 500ml bottle in my bag as well, because I found that I drank that much. Because it was warmish most days, 20, 24 degrees. We had a couple of higher days than that, but you go through the water because hydration is a very important thing. One of the biggest things is that I saw people not drinking enough day after day after day, and they were tired and weary, and you talk to them after a while and say, how much have you drunk? They, oh, not much, and drink more. Please drink more. Anyway, more on that a bit later. So all of a sudden, my 10, 12, I weighed it out in the end, it was around about 12 and a bit, including the water, it was quite heavy. Ugh. And for our time on the Camino, it would have been okay, but I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. But after the first day, I realised how heavy 12 kilograms on my back going uphill for 12 and a bit kilometres was. Ivana was carrying about 8.5 kilograms at that stage, which is quite a lot, you know. But we arranged things again. So when we went back into St. John Peter Port after our first day, because we called a taxi back because there was no accommodation in Orison and we didn't want to go through to Roncesvalles, we rearranged things again. And we sent home a total of 3.5-ish, maybe 4, I can't remember, kilograms of what we saw as excess. And that was a great idea. So I'm down to 10 kilos. Ivana, just over 6 kilos. And we felt so light the next day. But within a few days, I felt the weight again. Not badly. I hadn't trained with a pack, you see. and I should have. And if I had, that wouldn't have been so bad. But I wondered if I needed everything I had. We'd also purchased a few extra things as well. Automatic weight gain on the Camino. As much as you lose, you gain. Yeah. And again, I lightened my pack. Now I'm carrying 8.5 kilos. So with water. And it feels great. It feels perfect, in fact. And around halfway on the Camino, I realised that I could have carried a bit more. But why would I? Yeah? From the start, without the training, that would have been perfect as I went through. Now we did do, after about day 10, we decided to buy a cheap bag and put some of our excess things in this cheap bag. And because we bought a couple of things too, and we realised that this was going to continue. Not overbuying, but little bits and pieces, but everything adds up on the Camino. 100 grams here, 50 grams here. Oh, you buy a couple of apples and you take them with you there with a little bit of meat and a baguette to eat for lunchtime, and maybe a couple of protein bars or something like that. And you might even put a bottle of Coke or a fizzy drink or something else in there as an extra, and all of a sudden you're carrying an extra 1.5 kilos. And it happens like that. And I know it sort of goes as the day goes on, but it's still worth remembering these things. So we put those things that we only need into a day pack, into a different pack. We bought a cheap bag, as I said. We had it transported. I think it was Jacko Transport. They were really good. There's a few different options. There's 2 or 3 that I know of. And people found all 3 of them, ultimately Chaco and the other one, which is the main ones, very efficient, very helpful, and very reliable. Yeah, go with the big ones. And for us, that was worth it. It was an extra expense, of course. It wasn't horrendous or anything like that. It was an extra 200 euros or dollars, I can't remember, over the time that we used it, for the times that we used it. But it was well worth it. So now we're carrying 8.5 kilos, 6 kilos each. Yeah, and it felt great. There's a few bits and bobs that we put in there, but we had to organise our stays. Because once you have a bag and you get it transported, you have to know where it's going. It has to go to the exact place you're staying pretty much each time. This is really important. It took away a little bit of the spontaneity, but I don't think it hurt us, because we only sort of did it a day or 2 days in advance. So we had a bit of an idea where we were going, how many kilometres we wanted to work, whether it was 19, 16, 24, 28, 32 kilometres, depending on how we felt. And then we'd look for the accommodation and have it sent to that place. Yeah? So it worked. But now I'm going to give you a list of pretty much what we took. I'm just going to start, I'll go through it and I'll speak what I need to speak to about it. But we took a hat each. Obviously a sun hat to cover us from the sun. We also took a beanie, and I'm so glad we did, because there was some cold mornings and some cold evenings, and it was just nice, especially with a beautiful set of hair like I've got. It helped, you know. We took a buff, the thing that sits around your neck. Now, I wouldn't walk again without one. It was so fantastic on days were a bit dry or there was a bit of wind. You pull it up over your nose and it sort of protects you in through here. Days that were wet or where it was windy, it protects you and it sits around your neck. And truthfully, when you're walking, you get hot, you perspire a bit and it soaks up a bit of that. So you're a bit more comfortable in that area. So I loved having a really good quality buff. We each took 3 pairs of underwear. Now, we took socks. Now, each day, when I say socks, we took 3 pair each, which was 6 socks each, because each day we wore 2 pairs of socks. 1 pair of light under toe socks, and the other was a thicker hiking merino wool sock, and that worked really well for us, and we liked that. We didn't really need 3 pairs. We could have done with 2, I can say that right now, because we washed our socks and our jocks every single night, and we sort of dried them overnight, and if they didn't, you just chuck them on the back of your pack and they'd be dry in a little while after you've been walking for a little while. A pair of shorts each, hiking shorts, yeah? Not jeans. I saw people walking in jeans and they regretted it. They're too heavy, they don't dry fast enough. You're looking for quick drying things that are wind protective to a certain degree. These helps as well. Hiking socks have these things, and get advice. Don't be afraid to ask, and find out somebody that's done a hike or done the Camino at least, and then go and talk to them about it. They'll give you great advice. We found that too in a shop in Burleigh Heads called Wild Earth. I think Lynn was the name of the lady there that helped us, yeah? So we also took a pair of long hiking pants each. Now I had 2 sleeveless tank tops, 1 t-shirt, one t-shirt, one long sleeve, it was sort of a thermal type top, a lightweight fleece with a full zip up, because we could use that open in the morning so you weren't too hot when you could. Layering is very, very important. Yeah. Ivana had similar though. She had sports bras as well. I don't use them. Yeah. We bought necessary medication. We took hiker's wool, Compeed, Vaseline, and a basic first aid kit. Don't forget them. And I know people will say, oh, there's chemists everywhere and there's shops everywhere. But if you're in the middle of nowhere and you've got 5 kilometres to go and you've got a blister forming, because it's always best to stop the second you feel a blister hotspot. Everyone says, I'll get to it later when I go to my next stop. By that time, it's too late. Put the wool on, the hiker's wool. Put it on straight away, protect it. Put Compeed over it if you have to. But the hiker's wool will save your life every time, as long as you do it the second you go, I think I'm getting a blister. Don't wait until you've got the blister. So important. I wouldn't go anywhere without the above anymore. We shared the hiker's wool with lots of people over the time. We'd stop and they got a blister and I don't know what to do. I haven't got anything with me. I didn't think I'd get a hike. And they had blisters this big, some of them. It was horrendous because they hadn't listened, they hadn't watched. So we shared our hiker's wool and bits and pieces. And that's what happens on the Camino. People often give things and help each other. And that's just one of the beautiful part of it. Now, we took hiking poles. There's debates over this. Most people I saw had hiking poles. And we had a pair each that we'd bought, I don't know, about 12 years ago. And they were expensive then, 14 years ago, when we were hiking through the Alps in Slovenia. And they were fold-down ones. And I think they were called Black Diamond. And we hadn't used them that much. And they were perfect for us. We bought them for our right size. We had them fitted at the time. And they didn't fail us. A good quality pair of hiking poles. Now, some people say, oh, I bought cheap ones and they lasted me the whole time. I saw so many people do that and break them and have to go and buy another pair, and then they upgrade and they end up paying more than they would have anyway. Buy a half decent quality pair before you even go. That's really, really important. Now, boots. We took a pair of boot seats, obviously, because we sort of, or hiking shoes, whatever you want to call them. I'll call them boots for now. Now, we both started with Merrell Moab 3s. Yeah, mid-rise Gore-Tex boots. Now, I have to say, I love them. They walk with me every single step of the, I think it was over 1,000 kilometres we walked by the end after doing some side trips and bits and pieces like that. And I can't complain. And in fact, I felt like a bit of a fraud because I didn't get one blister, except for the day before we walked into Santiago. I got a blister half the size of my little pinky there on the side of my heel. And I had a bit of a giggle to myself because I felt the hot spot, went, I've only got 5 kilometres to go, and there was a blister. But it wasn't bad, but it was sort of fun at the same time, saying I finally got one. But I love those shoes. They were perfect for me then. They might not be perfect for you. Yeah? Ivana was a different matter. She bought a pair of Moabs with me because we tried them and we thought they were great. But when she was training with them, when we got to Slovenia, she found out that when she was walking at distance, they weren't comfortable. And I think it was a arch or something like that. And she said, I don't think I'll be able to walk in these. And I said, okay, what are we going to do? She said, well, I've got a pair of Alpina boots, which are fantastic boots made in Slovenia. And we've hiked in the mountains here and they've been brilliant. I said, fantastic. We both know the boots. We both know they're comfortable. She took them. Big mistake. Why? Because they're winter boots. So they're full leather, full Gore-Tex. They don't breathe very well. And she felt like her feet were in a microwave after about 4 or 5 kilometres. And so she lasted until we got to a decent town, about 6 days, 5 or 6 days in those. And she sacrificed a lot, I have to say, because it was tough. She's tough. But what she had done was she'd bought a pair of Hokas as a changeover shoe. I only took the one boot. I was quite happy with them because I'd done enough walking to see in heat and in cold. And these Hokas were Challenger 8s, I think. And she hadn't walked them in. But every time she put them on, she got blisters. Now, she did. Now, we met lots of people that had Hokas on that didn't get blisters. So, can you see what I mean by your Camino, your way? Things work differently for different people. Yeah? And so, they weren't great for her for the Camino. For other people, they swear by them. Ivana puts Vaseline on her feet every day to prevent blisters. And I think without those, she would have been in big trouble. And she didn't get any really huge ones either. She was fortunate because she watched the hot spots, because we talked about this. But the Vaseline, I think, saved her. So if you're prone to blisters, every day, just coat your feet, especially in between the toes and the back of the heel and those sorts of areas there, and the sides and the back, with a little bit of Vaseline. I didn't felt I need it, and I didn't need it as it came. And that was fine. But that's her Camino, her way. She did it how she wanted to do it, which was really lovely. So what are we going to do? She's been through now 3 pairs of shoes, and Ivana's not a prima donna, and she's not a princess, and she's a tough person, and she walks, and she'd rather not tell than say I'm uncomfortable. But when you're walking with the most important thing, your boots, for 6 or 7 weeks, you have to have something that's great for you. This is your primary contact. These are your work. These are your life. This is what carries you, along with your mind, through the Camino, is your boots. They have to be right. And if they're not, change them. You know what? You've spent enough money to get there. You've spent enough money buying the rest of the equipment. If they're not right, what's another $200 or $300? It's absolutely paramount that you have them. So we walked into, I can't remember the town now, and I'm sorry about that, but it's not really important. But there was a fairly well-stocked hiking shop, but they didn't have that many shoes. They had a variety, but none that were right for her. And the woman said, hang on a minute. I've got a pair of men's shoes that I think will be perfect for you. And it was their last pair. Excuse me. So Ivana ended up, now let me just look down through here, with a pair of Solomon Agility Peak 5. They were Gore-Tex shoes as well. And so they weren't boots. They were hiking shoes. And Ivana put them on. I saw her smile for the first time in like a week and a half. She said, they feel fantastic. We'll take them. Brilliant. They went through the rest of the Camino, 600 kilometres, not one blister, not one ache, nothing. Just normal day-to-day sore, yeah? That's what happens. But these shoes were really fantastic for her, yeah? So, in the end, a pair of men's Solomon Agility Peak 5s. They were right for her. Her Camino, her way, she did it. She was lucky. We took one singlet each. We took thongs for evening and showers. Did we need the singlets? They sort of came in handy a couple of times, actually. Could we have got away with them? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We took toiletries. Now, amongst toiletries, toothbrush, shaving, blah, 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 blah. And that was about it. And multi-purpose soaps, because then we could wash our clothes with it, because we washed our socks every night. Yeah, and our clothes every couple of days, and sometimes every 2 or 3 days for pants, because they don't need it. When you're on the Camino, everyone's doing exactly the same thing. Everyone smells a little bit similar, if you know what I mean. Yeah, but no one reeks, because most people are clean. We took silk linings, cocoons, if you like, so that if we just wanted to sleep on top of a bed with nothing else, we just had a silk liner, very light, very practical. It worked really well. We didn't take a traditional sleeping bag. Instead, we took the advice of Lynn at Wild Earth in Burleigh Heads, who's walked the Camino before and talks to people about it. She's done it a few times, yeah. And she told us to get an open bag, which is one that actually opens up, and it sort of doubles as a doona. So if it's a bit hot or a bit warm, you can just lay it on top of you or throw it off, or if it's cold, you can snuggle up into it. I think it was up to -7 degrees. We were never going to need anything more than that. And this worked perfectly for us. You could air it, you could clean it. It was just easy. Perfect for warm, great for cool, just to have a cover over. We took a good quality poncho, not cheap ones. Now, we saw so many people destroyed ponchos in minutes because they bought cheap ponchos somewhere, and I can't remember the names of the ones that Ivana got them before we left in Australia, but they easily go over the top. We carried them into the side of our on days that we knew it was going to rain, in the side of our backpack where one of the bottles would go, and you just pull it out and it's over your head, over the backpack, and you're covered down to your knees in literally under a minute, and they're perfect. And they're fantastic. They can be used as a ground sheet. They're quite handy for that. And even like if you were stuck in the sun or there was a bit of sun, there was a tree, you could put it over the tree and have a bit of shade, I suppose. That's just on winging that bit there. Now, we took headlamps, but later decided that they were really unnecessary. We thought we might walk in the morning. And why would we walk in the morning? Because a lot of people get up really early and they like to see the sunrise and all these sorts of things. Great idea. And we did see the sunrise a few times, but we didn't leave too early that we were in the dark. except for once. And we said we'd never do it again because it was a beautiful walk and we missed so much amazing scenery because we left an hour before the sun rose. We just woke up early and said, let's go. Yeah? And that's what part of the Camino is. We tried that, it didn't work. So did we need headlamps? No. For the most part, the light on the torch is enough to get you around in the albergues and where you're staying at night. You don't need much more than that. Could I have taken another small torch, the lightweight one? Yeah, I could have, because there's plenty of strong ones of those. We didn't. We just kept them and we never used the headlamps. I wouldn't bother about them again. Each one of us took a phone each, a charger, and a plug-in thing to charge stuff. I'm sure we'll understand what I'm talking about. And a 2-meter cord for charging your phones. Sometimes where you're lying or where you're sitting in an albergue, especially when you're sharing on bunks and things, you've got, it's over there, you know? And if you've got a 2-meter cord, you can still keep it safe with you in your bed. Now, normally you don't sleep with a phone, and it's wise to turn them off, but that's a whole other subject again. But you don't want to leave them on their own. It's pretty safe in most of these places, but you just never know. Very few times we saw anyone getting anything pinched, but it did happen. You don't want it to be you. But 2 meters was perfect. It gave us enough room to use that. We took 2 small travel pillows, the sort that you blow up, and they were great. We used them every single night, and they were just enough to rest your head without worrying about dirty pillows or anything else, although most of the albergues give you covers for everything nowadays. It's just nice to have your own. One thing that I found handy was, and this came after the first day because we went back to St John Peter Port, was I bought hiking gloves. Yeah, sleeveless ones, because I found that in the heat my palms was quite sweaty, yeah, and it was uncomfortable. I loved them. I didn't take, I mean, I took them off obviously and washed them and whatever, but I didn't walk without them for the rest of the journey. For the whole trip, I had them on every single day and I loved them. So if you're prone to, and I'm not prone to sweaty hands, but obviously when I'm gripping and walking every day, that was something that annoyed me, and it was just like, I don't need to be annoyed. So for, I think it was $19, $20, I bought a half decent pair of Lexi gloves, and they were perfect for me. I would take them again. I would never leave without them. That's one of the things that I would have one of those must-haves. Yeah, we packed medium towels, medium-sized travel towels. You get them from travel shops. You know, the microfiber ones, and they dry quickly, and you don't need anything big. Just enough is a good thing. We also packed hydrolyte tablets. Yeah, sachets. Now, they made a huge difference, especially on the hottest of hot days, because we'd finish and we'd take a hydrolyte and it helped us in our recovery for that day. And some days when we knew, like the next day was going to be just as hot, we'd start the day in the morning with a hydrolyte, and that helped us. That was fantastic. Really, really fantastic. Gave us stamina at the end or at the start of a day. It was really cool, handy to have. We both had a sling bag like this. We kept our Camino credentials, our passports, our money, our bits and bobs, our phones, our chargers in there. And so some of the weighty things went in there as well, yeah? We had access to them at all times. We never, ever went anywhere without them because of everything that we had. Even into the showers they'd come, yeah? So if everything else got gone, we've still got the main things with us at any one time. Both of us had a windproof, waterproof jacket. High quality, breathable. Great for early starts and misty walks. And windy days, it's fantastic. For me, they're a little bit too hot on the middays, 19, 18 degrees, and a lot of people would still be wearing them. I like to sort of be a bit more free and open up a little bit. I don't quite need that. We layered our clothes. Layering is the best thing you can do because you can take off things during the day. It's so easy, you know, like a short sleeve or a sleeveless t-shirt or whatever it is. Backpacks. Quality, fitted, not too large. Some people say you only need 26 litres. Maybe you do. I don't know. I carried 36 litres of Stratos, Osprey Stratos, 36 litre backpack. Was it full? No. But it was comfortable full. Yeah? So you could have stuffed things more down into it. But I loved it. And I was taught how to put it on, how to weigh it. I tried it on in the shop, and it was really important to try it on, get shown how to fit it, because they've all got little straps and bits and pieces that make it work better for you. And if you learn that before you go when you're in your training, the Camino will be so much better. And there's lots of videos about that on YouTube. it took actually a great resource for finding that. Originally, Ivana was going to go with one of our older Kathmandu day packs. It was obviously big enough, and I worried that it wasn't good enough for this amount of time, because it was only meant to be like a 1-day pack. And even after the first day, the same thing happened. We learned a lot on our first day, as you can hear. The first day, the pack itself was okay, but it was uncomfortable. It wasn't made for the weight. It wasn't made for the walk. It wasn't made for 6 weeks of walking 1,000 kilometres, 7 weeks of walking 1,000 kilometres. It just wasn't. And so we went back. There's a great shopping in St. Peter Port opposite the Credentials shop. We had great help there. And she ended up buying an Osprey EJA. It was a 38 litre pack, so it was a bigger pack, but it's a lightweight pack, and it was never full, but it was comfortable for her the whole time, and it handled the weight that the way she packed it. And this is another thing you need to research too, is how you pack your packs as well. Find out how to do that. But she loved that. She didn't have a problem. Remember, it's your cupboard, it's your home on your back for 6 weeks. You need something that works well, that's comfortable, that doesn't worry you, and it's one of the best, next to your boots, pieces of gear you can take with you. Get them fitted by knowledgeable people. Ask, yeah? Get them your shape, your size. They'll work different ones for different people. That's why there's so many different ones. We used packing cubes inside it into everything. Everything was organised. And they're invaluable, because you just have to pull out an area. You're not sorting through bits and pieces, yeah? Take packing cubes. They don't weigh much and they're worthwhile. We took a few Ziploc bags, quite a few actually, probably about 8 or 9, and we could have bought them on the way, but they don't weigh anything. We just chucked them in. But they were really good for throwing away some rubbish that we had, if we had it, and some other plastic things. But they're also great because often we go to a supermarket and we get things. And you buy some salami and some cheese and some apples and blah, 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 and you cut them up and you have it in there, and you could have lunch, and everything was in the Ziploc bag, so you could pull it out and eat. The rubbish goes back in it, straight to a bin when you find one, if there's not one near you. Fantastic, a great idea. We bought a cheap knife, and we'd had a corkscrew in it as well. We don't mind a wine, and having a decent, half-decent corkscrew with us was great as well. Having a knife as well. I didn't want to carry a knife on the plane, although we could have, because we had one bag that went underneath and one bag that we kept on top, so the one underneath had a bit more weight in it, but we just didn't worry about it. And at the end of the trip, I think I gave it to someone. And so having a pen knife was really, really handy. And when they knew, even the cheap ones, the sharpest, because they're laser sharp when they've done it. Pens. Take a pencil. Ivana, we both took a pad. I never used mine. I used my phone for notes most of the time. We took a wet bag as well. We used headphones at night for listening to things that we wanted to listen to. Now look, I'm sure I've forgotten a thing or two, but that's pretty much, keep it simple. And it sounds like a lot because I spoke a lot about different things, but keep it simple. Keep it light as you can. I ended up carrying around about 8.5 kilograms daily as part of my Camino that I choose, and I was really happy with that. You might want to carry more, you might want to carry less. After reshuffling a couple of times, it worked really well for us. You work it out, do your training, fill it up the way you would be packing if you were going, and see how it feels. Bye for now. This has been a bit of a long one. Bon Camino, Australia, Suzanne.